Hey, my name's Steve, and this is my YouTube channel, Show Off Your Everyday Carry. And just like it sounds, the main purpose of this is for people who don't have a YouTube channel. You know, all those gun guys, they'll put up videos of their everyday carry, and I love those. I learn a lot from them. And I thought, well, I know people who put a lot of time and effort into choosing and, you know, reviewing their stuff. I'd like to hear what they have to say. Let them show it off. And so that's what this channel's for. If you don't have a gun channel of your own or any kind of channel, you want to put up a video, then you just send it to me, showoffyouredc@gmail.com. Send me an email first and I'll give you the specifics of what you need to do. Or if you'd rather just upload a picture, or if you want to do both, I've got a Facebook page called Show Off Your Everyday Carry. Put up a picture there, but give some description. Definitely tell the models of things and maybe why you chose one over the other. Again, that's what I get from these videos. I think they're real helpful. They're sort of like mini reviews. Well, with this video, what I want to do is a more in-depth review of two pistols. And, you know, the heart of most people's everyday carry. And for me, I'm one of those weird gun guys who doesn't collect guns. And I don't want a lot of different pistols that I go out to the range and I rotate through, or definitely, you know, carry a different one, you know, in my rotation. No, I want one pistol that I carry all the time, that I train with all the time. I use in matches, every practice, so I know it inside and out. That also means I want a really good pistol. And so I've been comparing two really nice pistols. You know, the one, I suppose both of them, but definitely the one's sort of nice to start with. And then I've had custom work done on both of them. So I'm going to tell you about the guns, about the custom work, and then compare and tell you where I came out on all this. So the first one is the first one I started with. It is the Sig P229 Legion. So if you're familiar, the Legion already has some upgrades over just a regular P229. It has the gray guns trigger. It has the undercut there, which I really like. And then it also has a different coating. I like the color, but you know, on their site, there's talk about it has increased durability. Experience hasn't shown that to be the case, at least for everyone, and not on this one. It shows some wear after only about 3,000 rounds that you probably wouldn't expect. Now, I don't mind that because, again, I don't buy a gun to have a safe queen. I want something I'm going to carry, and it doesn't matter. I switched from a Glock that I carried about 10 years to this Sig. And, you know, after 10 years, that Glock had a great finish to start. But after 10 years, it had all kinds of wear. I was fine with that. So I don't mind it, but if that's an issue for you, again, some of these Legions and have some issues with their finish. Now, I didn't originally set out to get a Legion. I wanted a Sig 229. I'd shot that and always shot well with them. Again, better than my Glock. It was one reason I switched. And so I was just going to get a regular 229. Matter of fact, I did. I contacted the Sig Armorer, who is just an amazing guy to work with, does great work and super guy, and told him what I wanted, and he suggested, you know, just some regular 229s, and, you know, even helped me as I was looking on some of the online sites for used ones. And I ordered one, sent it to him, and found out I was going to go with the Cajun RMR, and he found out, you know, he couldn't put a red dot sight on it of any type, I think. And so he actually bought that, paid me what I paid for that gun, and kept it himself. And, you know, I'm sure did some work for someone that didn't want the RMR. But again, just a great guy. But then he told me that he had a Legion himself, this Legion here, that he had, and, you know, he gets all kinds of stuff from Sig, and, you know, and just didn't need it, you know, didn't need an extra gun. So he had shot it some, tried it out. And so he made me a good deal on it. I still then had work done by him. I had his carry level action job, so that includes smoothing out the trigger and different weights and stuff. Also, even though this comes with a nice trigger, he has a total automation QTR trigger system. Only him and one other person are able to do, and I don't know exactly what it is different from some of the others, but I do know the trigger is amazing on this. I don't know the exact weights, but he could tune them to whatever you wanted, so it doesn't really matter what mine are. But you look at the double action trigger pull on this, and you know, I guess I'll put it that way, and just that is so, when you hear smooth as butter, this thing is smooth as butter. There is no catch along the way. It is the same from start to finish, and just amazingly smooth. The single action, yeah, you just pretty much have to think about it, you know, and then also the reset, that is the shortest reset. I think I've ever had on a pistol. I don't know how well you could see it, I guess, because I do it this way. Yeah, like I wasn't even ready for it myself. Amazing. Beautiful trigger. You look at the controls, and I should have started with the stock stuff before I got into his things on it. But the controls on this, it has the takedown lever up here, has the, get it locked up, has the slide release is the first one starting from this side. And on the Legion, it is a little reduced in size, doesn't stick out as much. I guess some people had trouble sometimes. And I know I was going to, on the standard 229, have this thinner one put on. So people would have trouble with the slide locking back. Maybe their fingers would ride that. And then the hammer drop up there, the decocker, is in front. I had the suppressor height sights put on to go with the red dot. Those are Suarez sights. Gabe Suarez was the first one to really push for red dots. He's been at it for a long time. And so these are great sights there. Legion comes with the G10 grips with the Legion medallion on there. So, that has a decent texture feel to it. I like those. Would probably get a different one, even more aggressive, because I like that. So I think that's it. This one has the rail there, so you can put different things on. This one, the standard magazine, is 15 rounds, fits flush there. You can also get a 17 round that with the base pad, it also fits flush. So lock that back. I move on to the CZ. So this is the CZ-75D. Commonly called the PCR, and what that sets it apart from one of the other CZ models that has an all steel frame. This one's an aluminum frame, steel slide aluminum frame, or alloy frame, one or the other. Definitely I know the Sig has an alloy frame there. This one, again, try to start with the basics that come with the gun and then tell you what I've had done. But it has the pin here that is the slide lock, slide release, and that's also then the takedown. You push it through from the back, and this lever is actually different. The one that comes, there you got two different kinds. The one that came with the PCR just stuck out a little much, and I was having trouble with my support thumb was pushing it, and the slide wasn't locking back. So I had asked for an extra just in case, because I've heard that's one of the things that can break on a CZ, and so to always have an extra. The one they sent me was different. It's the one that comes standard, and now I'm not sure if it's the P01 or P7, but fit this, and I like it better. It doesn't stick out as much, and I like the feel of it. It's got like 3 or 4 bigger slots, grooves, steps, versus a bunch of little ones. So you've got that in the front, and then the hammer drop is in the back there. This hammer drop takes it to, and you can maybe see there, it takes it to a half-cocked lever. If I'm to pull the trigger, you'll see it's all the way down there. And if I just pull it a little bit, it goes to that half-cock. So that's where I carry it. It's where it's meant to be carried. And so, as a point of when I get ready to comparing them, you'll compare this half-cock trigger pull to the Sig doesn't have that half-cock. This one does not have a rail, and I don't mind that. I don't need a rail. I carry a handheld flashlight. I don't want one on the pistol itself, and makes it thinner, and I really like that about it. This came with rubber grips that were really nice for what they were, but I love the G10, so I went to Loke, L-O-K. Jason there is another incredible guy to work with, and I like aggressive. These are his Mayhem grips. I like one step short of a cheese grater, and these are about what they are. At first I got the thin grips, and I'm going to point the gun at you, not me. It's unloaded, but you're not really there, and I am. And those were too thin, so I got the palm swells, and that just feels good. I actually just contacted him yesterday, and he can make an even thicker version of the palm swells because of my support hands having a little, I have to really push in, which you want to, but at the same time, if it stuck out a little more, I get that good firm pressure without having to squeeze as hard. And so I'm going to try even thicker, but same texture. Love those. I had this worked on by Cajun Gunworks. Great guys down there. You can tell they're Cajuns when you talk to them, but awesome to work with. They did their Pro package on this. So that includes, harder, better hammer pin, trigger pin, and disconnector. Then they did trigger work. It has a short reset system. Again, it shows sort of the trigger pull on this, I guess from this way, from that half cock position. Shorter than the Sig, not as smooth. Matter of fact, at first, it had a catch as I was going through it. Like right there, even still a little there. It catches just a bit, and then well, maybe that's the spot. And I sent it back to them, and they smoothed it out some. Still not as smooth as the Sig, but shorter. And I guess you'd say maybe crisper. When you're just pulling it like that, it's crisp. It's just one motion there. Single action is beautiful on this. That's just great. And the reset. Do that there. Not bad. A little longer. Oh. Yeah, longer than the Sig for sure, but not long. I mean, it is short. It never comes into play with the stuff I do, my own shooting or matches or anything like that. It does all I need it to. So let me now begin to compare them, contrast them. Oh, I will say this one, and you'll see this one has rounds in it, my Corbon's self-defense loads. But just to show you, there's what a 14 round, how it fits. The 16 round also fits flush. What I found at first, I was carrying 16, and then they have a 19 round, or you can get a 19 round. That was my spare mag. That printed quite a bit for me. So I had to move down to the 14 in the gun and the 16 in my spare. Prints much less, so that puts me at 31, is it? Yeah, 15, 31, whereas this one's at 33. But if it didn't, if the printing didn't bother you, I think you'd be up, I don't guarantee the math, 34 with the other. So you'd be one above that. So either way, not bad. It's high capacity. One thing I will talk about is the red dot on this. As I said, I got the Sig Romeo on this one because that's what the Sig Armorer had on it already, and so I just went with it. I was going to get the Trijicon RMR. The PCR cannot take a Trijicon RMR because the slide's too narrow up there. So I forget all my choices, but the Loophole Delta Point Pro was one of them. I went with that. When I hear people talk about sights, typically it's the Trijicon and the Loophole. Now there's a new one, Holosun, which apparently compares very favorably to Trijicon, but it also has the exact same footprint, so it wouldn't work on this either. But with Loophole, I like it as far as what they both do, what you see, they're great. To start to compare some things, in terms of the Romeo, I was reading an article by Gabe Suarez, again, the one who has, to me, more experience than anyone with these red dots. And he said in his classes, he's had the Sig Romeos fail. They're not as robust as the Trijicon. Nothing apparently is as robust as the Trijicon. He didn't say anything about a Loophole failing. What he did mention, and I've seen this myself, is the battery life can be really bad. Most of these are good for, they'll say 2 years, and I know about everyone just changes them once a year on a certain day so they don't forget. And then they're totally within the realm of safety there. This one has died a couple times already. The battery has. I need to keep better track whether it's lasting 3-4 months and find my point that's safe and a cutoff. I check it every morning, and you can definitely see it dimming as it's going. It doesn't just go out. But the battery life's not as good. Also, with this, there was no way to put an actual rear sight on it. It has the front suppressor height sight, but Loophole makes this little thing that fits down in a notch on their sight. So you have something, it's not as good as the Suarez sights on that. So, but the red dots themselves are, I see the dot the same. The other thing I do need to point out, with the Sig and a bunch of others, you'll notice there's 2 buttons here. One is, to make the dot brighter. One is to decrease the brightness. So 2 separate buttons. With a Loophole, you push the battery cover. And there's only 1 button, which means, it has an upward ascent of like 8 steps, and then you get to the top and it flashes. And then your next push is going to start taking it down. And so you've got to go all the way up, all the way down. That could, once you're just setting it yourself, it's no big deal. But I've heard of some people, like they'll come in, especially they go to a movie theater or something, and without taking their gun out, obviously, they'll just reach down and they know where the buttons are and they adjust it down a little bit. Come out, they adjust it up. Well, you couldn't do that with this, not near as easy unless you kept track in your mind. Here's where I am, here's what I pushed, did I actually push it? So that one, you know, not as good, but the sight is more rugged, I think. It has a shield over the top. I like that. Getting into the comparisons and what they are, one thing I'll say is the takedown of the Sig, far easier. You know, you have it locked back like this, you just slide that down, back up, that's it. So no tools of any sort necessary versus, get that locked back, you know, push it back up, now I'm good to go. So with the CZ, you need, as with like, you know, an old 1911, you got to have something to push that pin out. I use my toothbrush that I use to do the cleaning. So not a big deal, but it's not as easy. You got to hold it back to that hat, you know, where the lines match up and push it through. So not as easy. Dry firing on this. With the Sig, I never heard anything about, you know, just dry fire all you want. With this one, definitely on a stock CZ, the firing pins, if you dry fire, it will create some sort of notch and they won't fire. I've seen it at the practice for the pistol match that I'm in every month, and the guy had a CZ ram me, and that's what had happened. With the hardened pin from Cajun that's less susceptible to that, they still recommend it. Go ahead and put an O-ring on. And so to dry fire, I have to put a rubber O-ring over the firing pin. A little bit of a hassle. I guess you could call it an extra safety step. You know, I know I'm moving to dry fire. But also, I had something, and it won't happen again, but I left that O-ring on and went to practice for the match like a day later, and you know, the buzzer goes off and I shoot, nothing. So tap rack, shoot, nothing, maybe another time, and then I realized I left that O-ring on and it doesn't allow it to fire. And so it wouldn't have been good if I really needed it. From this point on, now I have a case I put the O-ring in because it's a little small thing. I put that in my steps, you know, to where I'm leaving the dry fire area. So I see that, I am reminded that will not happen again, but that's an extra there. So it's a little harder to take down, a little harder to dry fire. But I love this gun. I love the feel of it, that grip. You know, people make fun of the Glock. It's a 2x4. Well, the Sig is a rounded 2x4. You know, it just really is. It's just this round, straight thing that no one's going to say that's comfortable and that fits their hand. It's not uncomfortable, but it's not like, well, you pick this up and it, you know, they took in mind the hand when they, you know, made this grip, whereas this, they just took in mind the magazine, I guess. So this is normal. I guess you'd say it. This feels normal, like most guns. This feels over and above. Now, I felt the Walther, some of the HKs feel that good. I think this part of it is the palm swell. That really seems to make a big difference. So I like that a lot. I like the fact that there's no rail. You look at this, and you know, if you can see the difference, it is smaller. And even their overall lengths and weights and stuff, the CZ's a little smaller. It has a shorter barrel by slightly, 3.75 to 3.9. But in terms of what I found accuracy-wise, they're exactly the same. I did have something done by Cajun. I forget what it was in terms of a bushing or something, some kind of accuracy thing. Again, I go all out because I only have the one gun. So this is super accurate. So's the Sig. But this one just carries smaller. It just, again, and that's the goal with conceal. I don't want a subcompact gun, but I also don't, I want it to feel as small, carry as small as it can. And this one does. I really love this. Love these grips that I put on it. Love the controls there. I've just realized, you know, I'm trying to switch from the slingshot method to using the thumb there. It's a little faster, and I can get a good purchase on that. This one's a can, but it's not, you know, as big. So I like this all around. So that's where I've ended up on, you know, my personal journey there in comparison of these two absolutely great firearms. Again, I certainly would not hesitate. You know, if this is what I had to carry, I'd be a happy guy. So don't mind that at all. And definitely the Sig Armorer does incredible work on SIGs. If you want that, Cajun Gunworks does awesome work on CZs. Jason at Loke Grips, you know, great stuff there. So if you have any questions, put them in the comments. I promise I'll get to those, any comments yourself. But that's where I've come down on these two very fine firearms.